Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Duggan with IGN and welcome to Dungeon Defenders 2. We are in a social tavern here with a couple of players. I have my buddy with me in the game and we together are going to show you the absolute fastest way to level up as of the Loot and Survive patch. That being said, I feel like this video will not be current forever because this is certain to be patched out. It is quite broken. So if we look here, we have the war table and we can kind of select this and mess around with the different settings and levels and stuff like that. So there is a ton of replayability to the game, even though it's in pre-alpha, and there's obviously going to be much more content coming down the line if Dungeon Defenders 1 is anything to go off of, which I'm sure is the case. So we're going to go ahead and select the Wyvern's Den map. Now, this is the easiest difficulty, campaign easy, but if we were to bump the difficulty up to free play, which is much more difficult, even on easy, we would get about 6,000 experience. But if we go back to campaign easy, which mind you, again, is easier, we will get 65,000 experience. So right now it's a little bit broken and is far and away the fastest way to level up in Dungeon Defenders 2. We're going to go ahead and jump into the game as soon as my friend is done messing around with his alts, and I'll see you in there. So here we are in the Wyvern's Den. For some reason, my friend is playing a level 1 apprentice. There he is on his almost maxed monk. And this is going to be an absolute raffle stomp. Excuse my French. So here we have the build phase. I'm going to go ahead, get all my build gems, skip cutscenes because this is about speed, not about narrative experience. So I'm going to build some very minimalistic defenses in each of the 5 lanes because, like I said before, this is super easy, especially when you have some levels under your belt. So the way this game works is it does scale you gear-wise when you do easier content, but it scales you in such a way that you can still clear it super, super fast. So I would be putting much more thought into this. I'd be hitting shift and looking at what's coming down the lanes and seeing if there's any flyers and what towers I need to build and all this, you know, intense thinkery. I'm not going to do that because I've done this 20 or 30 times, and it is super easy every time because, again, we're kind of exploiting just a little bit. Not something that people are getting banned for because I believe everybody is doing it. So as soon as I have all that placed, I'm going to hit G, and we'll get going. There's the boss up there. That's Betsy. She will come down to that platform, and these Skyguard towers, which normally only hit air units, for some reason are going to hit her. So despite the fact that this level is extremely easy and gives way more experience than it should, it's also a little bit busted in the sense that these towers, which are way OP for ground units, because they normally only hit air units, hit the boss. I'm not sure if that's by design or what, but in any case, this is the road to glory, and by glory I mean level 50. As you can see, I'm almost there. I'm level 44. I still have a ways to go. And that's not to mention all of my alternate characters, which I will certainly be rolling, because the way this game works is you can switch between characters in between waves. You have a deck of 4 character slots, and you can choose which character builds best suit your needs. There are a lot of character builds, even though there's only 4 characters as of this pre-alpha patch, because you can build them different ways. So my apprentice here, I've focused towards building these towers. So my apprentice, his towers would deal much more damage than another apprentice who had specialized in spell damage for spells like this and like this. You shall not pass. So there's a lot of different ways you can play the game. You could also do defense health if you wanted to build more walls and kind of be the wall guy. But ideally you would have 4 characters that synergize very well, so you could either play solo with a deck of 4 characters or play with 3 of your friends, which is the best way to play this game, not just in terms of difficulty, but also in terms of experience and having a good time. So I'm spending all of my green gems to upgrade these Skyguards because, like I said before, these side defenses will be totally satisfactory with just their basic rank 1. But these Skyguards will be able to hit the boss when she comes onto that platform and kill her in a matter of seconds. So I could AFK right now if I wanted to. It's really that easy. But I'm not going to because I'm showing you how to do it and creating a video. And also, the game is pretty fun. This isn't necessarily indicative of how it's normally played. It's usually a very thought-provoking, slightly stressful in a good way, and definitely tests you skill-wise in terms of what you can do, multitasking, thinking in terms of strategy, as well as just like basic stuff like aiming and reflexes, and it's quite fun, I have to say. I've really been enjoying it. You will not be able to unlock this level straight away, so this is a great strategy for anybody who has beat the campaign on easy, which takes maybe 2 hours maybe. There aren't a ton of levels right now, so you can get to a place where you unlock free play, unlock this level, which is the last level, and then start farming it. So if you don't have friends that you can play with, just play in quick match, because it'll matchmake you with people, and they will carry you, and you can probably just stand there, and you can hit M to give them all your mana, because that's what people who are low level do if they're nice. So we can build and defend you and take you to level 50 super quick. Other parts of this game, there is gear, and I guess a downside to this level is that you don't get excellent gear. It's like the eye power level is 22 there, as where mine is... oh, I'm sorry. What the heck? That might be a little bit bugged. If I hit I here, I can show you kind of the gear, but let's check my gloves. Cutscenes. My eye power level, I guess it's... Oh, it's getting scaled down. That's right. I already talked about that. Anyway, normally these this item power level would be much, much higher. But that's kind of cool. If you do want to play with your friends, you will kind of carry them, but it'll at least be kind of a challenge depending upon the mode you're playing. So in terms of gear, there are weapons. There is armor, which you cannot see visually. However, there are cosmetic upgrades and unlocks, one of which you get from doing challenges or from these chests that drop, kind of Dota 2 style, or if you buy the collector's edition of the game. There's a lot of ways to get alternate looks for your character, and I'm sure there will be more ways in the future. I guess it's also worth talking about enemy types. There are kind of these default goblins, but there are also flyers. So if you don't prepare properly for the right kind of enemy coming down the lane in the harder difficulties, you're toast. It's as simple as that. When you start the game, it's very lenient in terms of making mistakes and learning about things, but by the time you get to some of the harder difficulties, one mistake absolutely costs you the entire game. You have to be on point pretty much the whole time. There are also these environmental traps, so we can see poison root. I can hit E to use those, and it'll spew out this toxic goo, which will deal more damage to people coming down the lane. The enemies are really, really dumb, but that is by design. Like any good tower defense game, they are predictable, and they come down the lanes that are marked. But there are some that behave in ways you wouldn't expect them to give you a bit more of a challenge. And of course, there are mini-bosses as well as large bosses like Betsy here. So we're on wave 3 of 5. This whole thing takes about 15 minutes, and you can see I'm getting about 9,000 experience per round when the round ends. There we go. There it was, as well as a nice amount of gold. And like I said before, I'm just using all my upgrade points to upgrade these towers. But while we are in between waves, I'm just going to show you some of the inventory stuff. As soon as Betsy is done cursing and doing her thing that she normally does. If you were playing this on a harder difficulty, you'd have to watch out for this stuff, which is the curse that she throws down, which decreases the DPS of whatever's in there. But since this is easy, that's not too much of a bother. So if I hit I can bring on my inventory. These are all temporary items that I've picked up or left the game before I picked up, so it's kind of mailing them to me. A la World of Warcraft if you leave a dungeon without picking something up. I have a bunch of bags. Here are these cosmetic chests that can yield various things, as well as a bunch of loot I've saved up to fuse into other loot to make it better. Here's what I'm wearing. Here's my weapon. It's a legendary. Oh my god. I can see my character. These are kind of skill spheres, which are kind of like glyphs in World of Warcraft. I have info. I can see all of this stuff that my character can do in terms of towers and abilities. Also all the stats, so you can see my tower damage is way higher than my hero damage, or my ability power, which is super low. And then here's the hero deck, so I could change heroes at any time in between waves. Can't do it during combat, but in the first game you could switch between any hero at any time, so I much prefer this system. It's much better thought out. Also, I have kind of achievements and stuff like that. Also, I have daily quests, monthly quests, as well as current quests, which give varying results. So we're going to go ahead and hit G. And we will start wave 4, the final wave of little enemies, because on wave 5, Betsy is going to land on that platform, and those towers will obliterate her before you can say, keep it locked. I'm also picking up gold. This blue mana that I'm not picking up is from my abilities. So that fuels my abilities. which you can see I start to pick some of it up if I spend my mana. And then this green mana fuels my towers and creations. I can build during the combat phase, however, it takes time. Same thing with upgrading. I can upgrade during the combat phase, but I can't do more than one thing at a time. So we'll just upgrade one of these. But it takes time, so if I wanted to build or repair during the combat phase, it's slightly penalized, but it's definitely something you need to do on the higher difficulties. You can see there I got a little living bomb kind of thing, which is something that is very, very used in any kind of raiding or MMO. And it basically just tells me to get away from my towers so I don't do damage to them and stun them. I don't actually think it does damage on lower difficulties, but it does stun them, which is not optimal. But again, since it's easy, you can do pretty much whatever you want here. You could stand on top of your towers in AFK, because that's the whole point of this strategy, is to get you the maximum results with minimal time and effort invested, so you can get to endgame and start gearing out your character and, in a true MMO fashion, experience the game once you've kind of beaten it, because that's what MMOs are all about. The game starts when you hit max level. Here is the mother of all wyverns, Khaleesi, a.k.a. Betsy. And she's kind of a fun fight. Not as great as some of the fights in Dungeon Defenders 1, but again, this is the first boss, so you kind of expect her to be mechanically easy. For the sake of showing you, I will run up to the platform up there, which is the boss platform, which you can see is now accessible via those falling airship parts. And if I run up here, you can see there are some areas that I can't build, and then other areas I can. So if this were the real deal, I'd probably build some towers around here, which will take a lot of damage, but that's just kind of the way that you need to do things. And I'm going to hit G and ready up, and here she comes. Flying in. She'll do a bunch of damage to me as well as the towers, and I'd have to watch out for various telegraphs and things like that. But since I'm so over-leveled, it doesn't really matter. And as you can see, her health bar is dropping like a pile of bricks in the ocean. And there you have it. 65,000 experience as well as a legendary item every single time. That legendary item gets really useless really quick as you level up, though, and get better loot. So Betsy, campaign, easy. Best with a friend in private match, because you don't have to wait for randoms to hit G and ready up and all that good stuff and steal your resources. But if you don't have friends, then maybe play a quick match and get some friends. Here we can see the chest that you get at the end of every single level. It's kind of like a... what are those things called? Slot machine. I also get 30,000 experience for completing that at the end. And I only got green that time. Sometimes it'll upgrade to rare, which is blue, or mythic, which is purple, or legendary, which is orange, though that's never happened to me. But in any case, this is not better than what I'm using because it's a low-level item. But yeah, there you go. 65,000 experience, 15 minutes of your time. It will level you up super quick. I don't believe that there are going to be any more wipes from here on out, so it would certainly be worth it. And if you haven't played Dungeon Defenders 2, but you did enjoy Dungeon Defenders 1, what are you doing, is my only question. Get in the game. It's super fun. There's only 4 classes, but it's a blast. There's a lot of improvements across the board, and I've certainly enjoyed my time with it, and I will probably do some more content on IGN in the future. So, for all things Dungeon Defenders 2 and tower defense games in general, keep it right here on IGN.